Karen from Countyfairgrounds USA, countyfairgrounds.net. Welcome to today's podcast.
Do I have Tobias-the-Adequate, Matthew Legare on the line? Hello.
You do have Tobias-the-Adequate. How you doing?
Hello. You've been doing this for a long time, haven't you?
I sure feel like I have. It's been, wow. I think I actually did my first show at a festival in 2002. So it's been about 11 years.
I actually interviewed you in 2010. And at that time, you were primarily a magician and doing a lot of magic shows. So now you tell me that you do mostly music shows?
Well, yeah, I was a magician for 20 years, but now due to a printing error, I am a musician. You know, you grow, you adapt, you roll with it. And one of the things that happened was, of course, the plague. You all remember the plague. It was in all the papers. We shut everything down for a while. And I started looking at ways to continue to keep my performing chops up. And the very high-energy, high-audience interaction magic show that I do when I'm out in front of live human beings didn't work so well in a live stream environment. But I started messing with music about 6 years ago, and when the lockdown came, I decided, well, I'll see if I can do this. And so it was pretty well received, which has led to the evolution of a show I now call Troubadour, the songs of my people, geeks, nerds, and goofballs.
Okay, so you're basically telling me that you didn't really perform during the lockdown much?
Oh, well, I didn't perform in person, but I did perform online. I got to the point where I was doing about 4 shows a week for anyone who would be willing to come and check it out. At this point, when I do my streaming shows, I stream on several different platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Streamlabs. I am back performing in front of live human beings again. As a matter of fact, I performed at the Kerrville Renaissance Festival, the Sherwood Forest Fair. I'll be performing at an event called Steampunk November out in Mansfield, Texas in November. I've got a couple of cabaret gigs lined up, and I've also pitched to the Scarborough Renaissance Festival. I'm working on figuring out what to apply to, because as a variety act, as a magician, it's pretty easy to say, hi, I'm a variety act. This is what I do. And if an event wants me, they'll take me, and if the event doesn't want me, they won't take me. Being a music act is different, even though it is still the same goofball doing the stuff. There's still a lot of bantering and interacting with the crowd. And in fact, anytime I can get the crowd to cheer or sing along with any of the songs, I always feel pretty accomplished. Because if one person does something doofy, that's just doofy. But if you get a bunch of people to do it in unison, well, that's a festival event, isn't it?
People always ask me how you guys got started in this. You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, how'd you get started? Well, I started out as an actor in California seeking my fortune. Unfortunately, somebody else had already found it. But I did discover that I could entertain people with what I call comedy with magic in it. And so I started to perform at several of the relatively close Renaissance festivals and other historically themed events, branched out into county fairs, art and wine festivals, and the like, then moved from California to Oregon, had to start my career all over again, more county fairs and fewer Renaissance and historically themed festivals. And then in 2011, we moved out to Texas, so I got to start again pretty much from scratch. But I've either had one very long career or a series of short ones.
I have to ask this too. I always ask. You've never done anything else for a living except perform?
Oh, yes, I did. See, when I started this, I was 35 years old, and I had a marriage and a mortgage and a burning desire to maintain both.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I am still married. I'm very proud of that. And we are living in what I like to think of as the last house I am going to remember moving into. It is not, there are a lot of folks who do performing, and this, like, all that is what they do, and I bless them for it. I admire them. I admire their perseverance. I admire their drive. I really did start this partially as a way to continue to go to the events that I like to go to, and make a little gas money. I've been pretty successful at that, managing to cover much more than gas money over the last few years. It's been an interesting second career, which is good, because when the .com thing collapsed, I was joking, I would always have the theater thing to fall back on, and then the .com bubble burst, and I kind of needed to fall back on the theater thing to perform. And that is how we paid for a lot of stuff over the years.
Do you have any children?
We do not. At this point, we have 2 cats, and that is the full extent of our responsibility to them. Yeah, we are the designated crazy aunt and uncle of our generation, on both sides, which is saying something. So folks will, I've actually had family come and see me perform in both magic and music, and I have not yet been disowned. So I think that's a positive.
So you've done a lot of shows. Are there any places that you'd like to perform that you haven't been able to?
I am looking at, well, here in San Antonio, there is a week-and-a-half long citywide block party called Fiesta. And I've performed magic at a couple of Fiesta events, and I'd like to try and take the music out there as well, because I think the kind of silly, goofy things that I do would appeal to a lot of people who are out there just to have a good time. If I can get a bunch of people to sing along with some of the songs that I do, I always feel like I've achieved something, breaking down that little barrier that people have, being afraid to actually commit to doing something that's fun and frivolous, which is what all these fairs and festivals are about, honestly.
These songs that you do,
yes.
Do you write them?
Most of them, yeah. I started out with a few. Now, you just happen to be in a situation where you are calling me in the room in which I keep one or many of the musical implements. Implements much like shovels and rakes and implements of destruction. And I can, well, I consider it very much, building songs is very much like building, a doghouse. You want it to be able to stand up on its own. Let me see here. There's a few very goofy ones, many of which are inspired by things that I saw on the internet while we were in lockdown. There's a particular one that's actually called "Somebody Is Wrong on the Internet," which sounds a little bit like a Prince tune. That somebody is wrong on the internet. Somebody is wrong. These things kind of wander into my head, and then I have to write them down to get them out of my head. I actually wrote a country music tune based on the lockdown called "Socially Emotionally Distant." And as soon as I can find somebody who will play a lap steel for me on it, I will be recording that.
Okay. Does your wife help with any of this?
She is the reason I am not dead in a ditch on fire. She does not perform, but she is very much my infrastructure. So when I go out to events, she makes sure that I have the stuff that I need, not only to perform, but also to do so in a comfortable manner, making sure that I take snacks and drinks, making sure that I have a place to sit down, and usually that means taking a chair or two, a cart to schlep all the stuff. She's helped me assemble a very portable PA system that all fits in a very historically neutral basket, so I can just set it down on the stage, plug in a couple of things into my instrument and myself, turn it on, and suddenly I'm much louder. I did most of my magic act up until about 13 years into the career unamplified. And then I hit my 40s. It's like, you know what? You need an amp. Actually, you want an amp, because I can do it. I'm just worth absolutely nothing afterwards. She does not perform on stage. When she does come out with me and I am performing, she will help to clean up things at the end, and when I pass the hat, I then hand it over to her, and she counts the money while I fix and reset everything.
I have this straight. You do your own bookings?
I do my own bookings. I'm not. I've not used an agency. A lot of the bookings that I do start with cold calls or cold emails, but when you have done it for as long as I have, there are some times when I get booked into stuff just because people know me and recommend me to other people. I've been doing more Celtic and St. Patrick's Day stuff. I actually did St. Patrick's Day event that covered 3 days at a pub that's out here in San Antonio, just across from the Whitty Museum, 2 days outside and 1 day inside because it just got that wet. And the only reason I got booked to do that is because of some other musicians that I knew who met me doing my magic stuff. So there's an interesting overlap and sometimes people will say, oh, I forgot you still do magic, or oh, I didn't know you do music. So it gives me an opportunity to build interest in an area that people might not have looked at me for a particular event or show or booking.
Okay, but you're still doing magic shows per se, right?
Yes, I am. I actually do my best to do at least one thing on stage with rope and a pair of scissors every year to continue to maintain my career as a magician. And I still carry around some stuff for just that occasion. I do get booked to perform magic as well. Let's see, the last one I did was actually for a corporate event last year with Cisco Foods out here in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the nature of, generally we're still in the process of recovering from the plague, so it's still more of a rebuilding process and just reminding people, hey, yeah, I am available, I am out here. I have just about as many bookings as I want to have.
Wow.
After 20 years of driving on this, I'm beginning to fall back into the enthusiastic amateur portion of the program, but I still am an enthusiastic amateur who wants to be able to pay for gas, food, and lodging. So,
well, I would hope.
Yeah, I am not independently wealthy, so we have not gotten that. We have not hit that point at all yet. Mind you, if there's a patron out there who would like to employ it, never mind.
Hey, Matthew, so how far east have you performed? How far east have you performed?
My goodness me. I have, at this point, Texas is as far east. I started out up on the West Coast in California and moved out and have done shows in California and Oregon and Washington State and Nevada. And, well, California is just such a long stretch. I've done stuff in Northern and Southern California, which I honestly feel should count as 2 states. I've done some stuff in Arizona as well. Then here in Texas, I've done stuff in Texas, being as bloody big as it is. I've done stuff in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've done stuff here in San Antonio. I've done stuff in Houston. I have not performed east of the Mississippi yet.
So when you do a show, do you bring all your stuff with you that you need?
Yes. Rule number 1 is plan to have to provide almost your entire infrastructure. I do not have a stage that I bring with me, although we have something that is in the works, based on a 10 by 13 Easy Up that actually involves a small half-moon stage, just a few inches off the ground, and then tables and benches and such. But I do bring enough PA to get me by or to connect into somebody else's PA system. I bring all my kit. I bring a chair to collapse into backstage, a cart to drag all of it onto the site with, and a cooler. I assume I'm going into the middle of nowhere, even if it's downtown, and I so far have yet to be disappointed in being oversupplied.
So you're not considered a grounds act at all, right?
I have done some ground work, and I have done some strolling stuff. For the last 4 years that I worked at the Scarborough Renaissance Festival, we actually did 50-50. The first half of the season I was working grounds, and the second half of the season I had a stage act. It took me some time to determine what I needed to do in order to be an effective ground performer, and I really had to find things other than magic, because when I do magic, I do stage magic.
Okay.
I know there are lots of folks out there that do good, what they call groundwork or lane work, street magician, so to speak.
Yep.
But the majority of my act requires enough of a run-up and enough of a run-up that it works better if people actually have some idea that they're coming to see a magic show, as opposed to having a magic show thrust upon them. Also, I have an extensive, and I say this with a little bit of bewilderment, amount of experience doing like clowning and clown work and interaction with other folks. And so a lot of what I do when I'm working the grounds is I just draw eyeballs. My goal is to give somebody a story to tell later. It's like, I saw this guy and he did this. I have no idea what he was doing, but he did this thing and it was neat or weird or funny, or I passed beverage through my nose. Now, working on stage is a little more structured and formal, and you have the ability to cause more people to pass beverage through their nose in unison. But I like kind of being the guy, if I do work rounds, then I'm kind of like sniping. And I will tell you this is the secret. I'm not doing quite as much of it, so I'm going to pass this on. I will tell you, and this, anyone out there who wants to do grounds, I will say this. There's one word: confetti. I am not kidding. I got a bag of confetti and a little squeaky horn.
Yeah.
And I would just stand there and I'd wait until someone made eye contact. And I'd play this very like fanfare and just toss a handful of confetti in the air. And it would get them every single time.
Yeah, I bet it did.
And it causes it gets to the point where people will actually bring other people over to have me, and if they interact with you, you know, it's like hit and run. Great, they laugh, you move on. But if they stay with you, if they engage, then you know you could. At one point, I was basically blessing people with confetti. People were bringing other people over to have confetti thrown at them. You could always tell where I had been on the site, because I left a bit of evidence, but it's paper, so it's biodegradable, and it's little paper. And you can actually get tissue confetti as well, which will dissolve when it rains. So I didn't have anybody chasing me with a broom, which was nice.
Matthew, I also have to ask you, and I always ask my entertainers this, because it's relevant. I have a lot of people that listen to these things that I do, and they're looking for a career. So do you have any regrets about doing what you've done?
I think that I would have liked to have started it sooner, but when I first moved out to California, like many children of the 70s, I was told that I could do anything I wanted to do and be anything that I wanted to be, and I was given absolutely no further guidance. And so it took time to work out what it is I actually wanted to do. I have done my best to continue to do the performing that I do at fairs and festivals in the light of changing day jobs, moving to different states, a plague now. And I think I've done a pretty reasonable job of it. I think at the end of it, I have a lot of good stories to tell, and I have a surprising number of people that remember me. And who haven't? I've gone to places where I have not actually done a stage show at that event for years, and people know who I am.
Okay, that's cool.
I find absolutely bewildering and pleasing, and it gives me a great opportunity to say, "Hey, these guys remember me. You might want to hire me again."
Okay.
Little leverage there.
All right. So now I always ask this question too. How do people reach you if they have an interest in booking you? And how long is an average show, by the way?
My average show is 20 minutes. I do a 20-minute or an extended dance mix 40-minute version of both the magic and the music show. If I am doing groundwork, I can do up to a 4-hour shift, but I like to take about 10-minute breaks about 3 times because I'm getting older, And I've just had some stuff done with my knees, so hopefully I will have retreaded knees by the time this gets out there. You can support adequacy in our lifetime by going to theadequate.com, THEADEQUATE.com, or troubadourk.com, TROUBADORK.com, if you are interested in the music specifically. Theadequate.com does give you access to my magic, my music, and all the other madness that I do. You can reach me at tobias@theadequate.com. I'm surprised as anyone that no one had claimed that domain. And you can find me at Tobias the Adequate on Facebook, at The Adequate on Twitter.
You're pretty reachable.
Pretty much all the other links are at theadequate.com. So you can, if you go there, you'll be able to find all kinds of ways to harass me.
Yeah. Who came up with that name, the Tobias?
Tobias the Adequate. Okay, this requires a bit of a running start, but I'll try to keep it brief. I started performing it at the Northern California Renaissance Festival, and I had to come up with a character name, and I was playing a sea dog, which is the sailors, the merchants, the scurvy, you know. And the name that I wanted to do, two other people had already picked. Like, so they're going around in a circle calling out your character name. It's like, quick, think of something. Anvil. No, that's not nautical enough. Anchor. Okay. So I was Anchor. And then about 2 years in, I won the name Tobias in a card game. And when I decided to do magic, I did not want to be this, the great, or the amazing that, or something like this. And whether or not I was actually exposed to Peter the Adequate or not, the Adequate lodged in my head somewhere. And so I became Tobias the Adequate. And
okay.
I have met Peter the Adequate, and he has given me his blessing to be adequate. So I feel pretty good about that.
Okay. All right. So you've left all your URLs. Do you ever have people call you directly to book you?
You can reach me at 210-859-6234.
Okay.
I will probably answer it as Matthew.
Okay.
Or leave me a message. I will cheerfully get back to you.
Okay.
I will happily welcome any and all opportunities to perform because, well, it's either that or pick an expensive hobby.
So you really don't have any regrets about the career that you chose?
Frankly, I'm as amazed as anyone that I've made it as far as I have. Because I really came into it not knowing how any of it worked. So This has very definitely been an earn while you learn experience there. I really had no mentor, no guidance. And so the mistakes I have made have been mistakes I have learned from and managed to recover with some semblance of grace from. And I think that's all you can really ask for when you're going as hard DIY as I did.
Sounds great. I've enjoyed talking to you, Matthew, and we'll get this up, and maybe you'll get some bookings out of it and some attention.
Well, thank you all very much. And remember, folks, if you're going to go out driving later tonight, don't forget your car.
Bye.